Happy holidays, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to send my warmest wishes to everyone celebrating Kwanzaa. Like so many other holidays, we will be celebrating Kwanzaa a little differently this season in our home. We'll be doing it over Zoom. You know, my sister and I, we grew up celebrating Kwanzaa. Every year, our family and our extended family, we would gather around across multiple generations, and we tell stories. The kids would sit on the carpet, and the elders would sit in chairs, and we would light the candles, and of course, afterwards, have a beautiful meal. And of course, there was always the discussion of the 7 principles. And my favorite, I have to tell you, was always the one about self-determination, Kujichagulia. And, essentially it's about be and do. Be the person you want to be and do the things you want to do and do the things that need to be done. It's about not letting anyone write our future for us, but instead going out and writing it for ourselves. And that principle motivates me today as we seek to confront the challenges facing our country and to build a brighter future for all Americans. So to everyone who is celebrating, happy Kwanzaa from our family to yours.
Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter in which he made the famous quote, "Nothing in this world can be said to be certain except death and taxes." Well, I would like to add another thing you can be certain about in this world, and that's the fact that Kamala Harris did not grow up celebrating Kwanzaa. What you just heard in that video was a crock of BS, and I'll tell you why. Kwanzaa was created in 1966 by Maulana Karanga. Kamala Harris was born in 1964, so she is older than Kwanzaa holiday itself. Kwanzaa is an African-American holiday. When I say African-American, I'm specifically talking about foundational Black Americans, those whose ancestors go back to the killing fields of the American South. Now, Kamala's father is from Jamaica and her mother is from India, so she has no ancestral ties to the soil here. You expect me to believe 2 immigrants who came to America as adults would adopt a newly invented tradition from a people they don't have any connection to? The only parent you can even try to tie to Kwanzaa is her dad, because he is Black, but he's Jamaican. Kwanzaa is a Black American tradition which is rarely celebrated amongst Black Americans. Only like 1 to 5% of Black Americans celebrate it, and that number would undoubtedly be less amongst immigrant Blacks, if it even exists at all. There is absolutely no way a Jamaican man who married an Indian woman and named their daughter an Indian name, Kamala, Devi, would be so in tune with Blackness he would be celebrating Kwanzaa. And she said she grew up celebrating it with family members across multiple generations. So is she implying her Jamaican grandparents were celebrating this new holiday of Kwanzaa? Is that the story? Or were these the family members across multiple generations who partook in Kwanzaa? I mean, come on, this is comedy. Now, if she can produce a picture of her family celebrating Kwanzaa when she was a kid, then I'll stand corrected, but until then, I call phooey. We do know she grew up celebrating Christmas though. Kamala and Maya Harris pictured here, Christmas 1968. I absolutely love this photo, but I digress. On the left, you see the big Christmas tree. On the mantle, you see the little Christmas tree. And I noticed the girls are wearing Indian clothes. Now I wonder, did the parents take off the Indian clothes and throw on some dashikis for the Kwanzaa celebration? Are the Kwanzaa candles off to the side somewhere out of camera view? Are there any pictures similar to the childhood Christmas photo showing the family coming together for Kwanzaa? Probably not. Also, her parents divorced when she was 7 and she moved to Canada when she was 12. She spent most of her time with her mom, so you know there wasn't any Kwanzaa going on. And her claiming that she's going to be celebrating Kwanzaa this year with her family over Zoom, yeah, sure. I guess these folks are going to be wishing you a happy Kwanzaa and lighting up candles. So why did she decide to make up this story about Kwanzaa? Well, for one, this goofy pandering actually works on some people. They don't really believe her, but will play along with the charade because of their undying and undeserving love towards her political party. Also, she is attempting to maintain the illusion that she has some Black credentials. She wants to keep up the sister girl routine because she knows a lot of Black people don't support her, and many of the ones who voted blue this election did so reluctantly only because they wanted Trump out. In the media, they kept promoting this first Black woman this, Black woman that nonsense in the hopes of getting support from Black women, and many of them did support it, but this Kwanzaa shenanigans and many other gaffes promoted by the Democratic Party towards Black people is just stupid and disrespectful. Kamala Harris has a history of doing that. Let me refresh your memory in case you forgot. last year when she was running for president, that video came out of her dancing to Cardi B. This was an attempt to appeal to black people like, hey, look, she's a sister girl. She listens to Cardi B. That was embarrassing, and they were called out for it, but they didn't stop this nonsense. They doubled down and had Kamala do this type of stuff over and over again. She did some interview where she was listing her favorite music, and she says a song that always makes her dance is Check the Rhyme by A Tribe Called Quest. Then she says, you know what I'm talking about, Phife. People pointed out that Phife Dawg has been dead for years, so if you were really a fan, you would have known that. So it looks like she was coached to reference some old school rap songs to look more down to earth and relatable to black people. But it came across as pandering, and no one likes that. Then, of course, in her interview on The Breakfast Club, she talked about smoking weed in college, and she mentioned listening to Tupac and Snoop Dogg while smoking weed. People then pointed out that Snoop Dogg and Tupac didn't have any albums when she was in college. So again, it just looked like she was saying anything to pander. And another thing people took issue with was her talking about smoking weed when a lot of black people are in prison precisely for smoking weed. So here is this prosecutor who locks people up talking about how she used to smoke weed. And on a side note, you ever notice whenever Democrats want to appeal to black people, it's always something about smoking weed or rap music or dancing or some other stupid thing that has nothing to do with policies or tangible benefits. I'm just saying. Anyways, her record in California is why her support amongst black people is sort of weak. Leading up to the election, they were playing the gender card very heavy for why someone didn't support her. I've even seen many people on social media and some of my Facebook friends sharing these viral posts disparaging black men for not supporting her. Mind you, 82% of black men who voted for Biden-Harris. But there was this narrative on social media that you were a sexist if you didn't support her. You were practicing misogynoir, and black men like Trump because they want to join the white supremacist power structure and they hate black women. This is nonsense created by silly people to be consumed by other silly people. Even Barack Obama's goofy behind came out blaming rap music for the small number of black men who did vote for Trump. It was an attempt to shame black people, specifically black men, into voting for Democrats because God forbid a black person doesn't have eternal loyalty to the Democratic Party. But lack of support for Kamala Harris had nothing to do with her gender or misogynoir or any nonsense like that. It was her track record in California as the district attorney of San Francisco and later as attorney general of the state. Her transgressions against black people were many, and I specify black people. I'm sure she harmed everyone, but I specify black people mainly for two reasons. One, the state of California is around 6% black, but 28% of their prison population is black, so black people were disproportionately affected by her actions. And two, the media keeps parading her blackness around and her being a woman of color like it's some sort of credential, so I want to show exactly why her being black doesn't matter. New York Times had an opinion piece, and I know it's an opinion piece, but they still brought up factual incidents that happened. So this opinion piece stated, Ms. Harris fought tooth and nail to uphold wrongful convictions that had been secured through official misconduct that includes evidence tampering, false testimony, and the suppression of crucial information by prosecutors. It goes on to say that when she was still the district attorney of California, Ms. Harris was criticized in 2010 for withholding information about a police laboratory technician who had been accused of intentionally sabotaging her work and stealing drugs from the lab. After a memo surfaced that Ms. Harris's deputies knew about the technician's wrongdoing and recent conviction but failed to alert defense lawyers, a judge condemned Ms. Harris's indifference to the systemic violation of the defendant's constitutional rights. So they were aware of this corruption but didn't want to let defense lawyers know, probably because they already won their cases and the cases they won would probably get overturned. And there goes their win, right? So doing what is right when people's lives hang in the balance was of no consequence to her. The article continues. Ms. Harris contested the ruling by arguing that the judge, whose husband was a defense attorney and had spoken publicly about the importance of disclosing evidence, had a conflict of interest. Ms. Harris lost. More than 600 cases handled by the corrupt technician were dismissed. So she wasn't denying the fact that this corruption was taking place, and she did nothing to remedy the problem when she could have, like informing the defense attorneys that the evidence against their clients was faulty due to that janky technician. Instead, she tried to argue that it was a conflict of interest since the judge's husband was a defense attorney. I'm glad she lost the appeal, because if Kamala had her way, she would have let tampered evidence keep people locked up. And let's talk about this man, Kevin Cooper. He's been on death row for the 1983 murder of a family, and when police arrested at the time a 25-year-old Kevin Cooper, there was no evidence connecting him to the murders. So like the good boys in blue, they decided to plant some evidence. Kevin Cooper sought advanced DNA testing to prove his innocence, but Kamala Harris opposed it. She only changed her mind when the New York Times wrote an article exposing the case of Kevin Cooper. So why wouldn't she support a man on death row getting DNA testing to prove his innocence? Would she rather risk a potentially innocent man getting executed after spending decades behind bars? This is a gross miscarriage of justice. His lawyers even offered to pay out of their own pockets for the DNA testing, so I don't see why it would even be an issue when a man's life hangs in the balance. It's not like some wild goose chase that won't bring about anything. It can decide whether or not the state should kill this man. The only reason I think Kamala and other officials would oppose the DNA testing is because if he is proven innocent, it would look extremely bad for the state, and then he'll sue and the state will have to pay millions of dollars. I think they're trying to avoid that scandal. Now, let's talk about her advocacy for child truancy laws. California passed a law where if children were habitually truant, the parents could pay up to $2,000 in fines and face jail time. People were upset with her because they said the people primarily impacted by these laws would be low-income people of color. Now, to be fair, the truancy is a problem, but we don't know a person's circumstances as to why it is happening, and if truancy is bad for the kids, then throwing the parents in jail damn sure can be better for them. California does have a lot of homeless people, so maybe many parents of truant children are homeless, so you never know. They probably just need help instead of getting locked up and having to pay fines when they're already scraping by. Moving on. Kamala Harris opposed the bill requiring her office to investigate police shootings. She also didn't support regulations for police in California to wear body cameras. Now we understand why the police unions endorsed her for San Francisco District Attorney. And that's another one of many reasons why many black people don't support her. And a couple of days ago, she tweeted this: Day 1, Joe Biden and I will act to get COVID-19 under control and save American lives. Well, that's good. We'll take action to protect dreamers and send a bill to Congress with a roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented people. And we'll rejoin the Paris Agreement. This is just the beginning. Now remember when she was asked about any policy for black people, she said,
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
And damn near 90% of black people who voted still voted for her. Foolishly, but it happened. So she's telling you day one priority are illegals and not the people who voted for her at a higher percentage than anyone else who also happen to be citizens of this country. So all the black folks who voted for her are going to have to hold this L. And nothing I said in this video is unknown or new information, but that Kwanzaa thing really got me thinking about how they're going to try to use symbolism and empty words to appeal to black people over the next 4 years, but nothing tangible will get done. And I genuinely don't understand how the Democrats are able to do this over and over and still manage to get the community to vote for them. This is straight out of the Democratic playbook, and they've been doing this forever. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me with the same trick again and again, year after year, for 5 straight decades? I'm just insane at that point. Anyway, guys, that's all I had to say about that. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.